Many projects get started before health impact assessment is considered. This is actually not a right approach because project activity may directly or indirectly and even cumulative change the community exposures to environmental-based health risks, such as communicable diseases, equipment accidents, and exposure to hazardous materials or conditions. Projects have the potential to affect a broad range of environmental and social determinants of health, either positively or negatively. So before commencement of a project, it is expedient that health impact assessment is taken into consideration alongside other impact assessments that may be considered, like the normal environmental impact assessment, because community health issues can affect business performance and reputation. Certain diseases such as malaria and acute respiratory infection have the potential to cause changes in local workforce productivity, which can adversely affect the business. So project sponsors are looking at the possibility of minimizing this health impacts on their project, because profit is at the back of my mind if I'm investing in a power plant, for instance, or refinery project. I want it to yield profit. So health impact assessment is a key study that should be undertaken when projects are about to commence, actually at the planning stage. This can be integrated into environmental, social, and social impact assessment or normal environmental impact assessment, like depending on countries and how it is being viewed. This can be incorporated into it. So outreach efforts that improve overall environmental, social, and health quality can turn existing health associated risks into mutual benefits, to businesses and to communities alike. So the presence of communicable diseases can also increase the healthcare costs of local employees and their family. And a rise in the prevalence of non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular problems, hypertension, and so on can have significant productivity and financial repercussions. So project financiers or sponsors or banks or lenders, as the case may be, should look into the issue of health impact assessment. Health is actually everybody's challenge. Health is everybody's issue. Health is not just my concern or your concern. It should be everybody's concern, women, men, children, and so on. So this webinar today is crafted from the IFC handouts on HIA. And we are going to be looking at the key characteristics for HIA, the functions, the types, the process, how a company is to determine which type of HIA is relevant to their project, and so on. So we may not be able to finish all this at a stretch. That's why we have A, B, C, D up to J for health impact assessment. So you can subscribe. If you're watching through our platform, you can just say I will be interested, so that we can send you updates when we are about to go for the next modules. If you're watching via YouTube, just enter your email address in the comment space, and then we'll be able to add you up to our mailing list, and you will be able to undertake all of the, I think, about 11 modules that we have for health impact assessment. So we move forward to what we'll be looking at today. I said earlier that health is everybody's responsibility, not only the health sector, not only Ministry of Health or any health agency in a local community or federally. No, it is everyone's responsibility. Even engineers should be responsible on health matters. Design persons, construction, community, departments and agencies, local governments should all be interested on issues regarding to health when it comes to sanitation. If a project is coming to a community, a rural community, let's say, and it's going to impact on maybe air quality. Let's say it's a quarry, a stone quarry, granite, and it's going to have some components which are maybe crushing and stockpiling, and all of that. There are measures that needs to be put in place at the planning stage to ensure that there will be no air quality issues like suspended particulate. So the community should be interested, the local government should be interested, everyone, regulatory or non-regulatory or private sector or non-governmental organization, should be interested in the particular project to describe the key characteristics of HIA, the process and the types, as well as how to determine is suitable for which project. Key characteristics that defines health impact assessment is predicting the consequences of project-related actions before they happen, providing information that can help decision makers prior. Okay, we had a list of recommendations for project decision makers and key stakeholders. Health impacts can be positive or negative, intended or not, single or cumulative, reversible or irreversible. So it's a serious matter. The range of changes may or may not be evenly distributed across the employees, depending on the exposure of such categories of people. So the HIA should consider the equity of impacts. Vulnerability is a key consideration within the general discussion of social, environmental, and institutional determinants of health. In many cases, certain subgroups are more vulnerable, may be disproportionately affected. For instance, women. When it comes, we took that in stakeholder engagement. You can refer to that on stakeholder engagement and vulnerability, and how women are most impacted in most cases. And then, of course, children. We did the ranking of how it contributes to the following: predicting the consequences of different project-related options, providing information required to help prioritize prevention and control strategies throughout the project lifecycle. These are the functions of HIA. It has a function as a vehicle, function to identify most critical environmental and addressing health issues that may influence overall sustainability objectives is also a function of HIA. Facilitating intersectional collaboration between the health sector and capacity building with local regions to operate. You don't have an HIA, you don't have a license to operate. It is that important. So let's look briefly at the factors that may contribute to health impacts. Factors that contribute to health impact is basically when there is everything rushed and natural. But once a project is coming in, of course, we have positive impacts that the project is going to have, like employment generation for the locals. But there is a sudden influx of job seekers or extended family that increases demands on existing health facilities in that community. So as we go on, we will now say, okay, if there's going to be an influx and there's going to be increased demand, how should this be mitigated, or what are the provisions to be put in place. Okay, a factor that may contribute to health impact is infectious diseases. These types of direct or indirect impacts may cause project delays, damage to relationship with communities or government organizations. It can even increase legal liabilities and additional costs to the project sponsor. However, when properly managed, community health impacts can reduce and help create positive perceptions, such as a social. So a key consideration for the project is positive participatory process. You can refer to our webinar on stakeholders engagement relevant approaches. You will see there, I think it should be down. You can subscribe to Richflood Environmental and Social Specialist, and then you get to access all of those files and go through them. So the capacity of the health system, particularly at the local level, at the local project level, is very, very critical. This capacity should be carefully evaluated during the health impact assessment to determine whether and how a project might affect local health systems and service delivery capacities that is already existing. Also, to be able to determine what next actions in terms of the mitigation. Don't forget our general slogan, and avoid or mitigate where the impact cannot be avoided. Okay, so the particular attention should be given to the health information system and the record. Maybe in some states you have reliable records and good statistics records as reference documents. In some states, in some it is not available, but this is really, really important as an input into the analysis assessment. Published simple and cost-effective interventions, and all that. A significant portion of by engineering, such as housing design, water access and supply, and surface water drainage management. These are captured. These are all captured in mitigation measures for health impact assessment. Okay, so I have this model that I want to show us, which was, of course, taken from the IFC handouts. It's the best representative of these sections. I mean, the selection, the approach for selecting impact assessment particular project. Actually, there is no clear dividing line existing to indicate. To indicate whether a limited one, as shown in this fig. Okay. However, it is established rationale for performing a limited HIA if that is what is being considered. So the potential health impact axis as see that considers health issues in the locations. Exposures what the potential exposures are to physical, biological, or even chemical agents. So you also have there the resettlement or relocation. That's when you have to move communities or provide compensation for their relocation sites. Endemic disease profile, malaria, HIV, it depends on what profile you have discovered, and infrastructures as well. Poor or non-existent health infrastructures is a key indicator to check whether what level of HIA is required. So when you're doing your stakeholders engagement, also stakeholders' concerns are very, very critical to the HIA determinants. There are HIA, the extent of HIA you need to undertake. So because community issues are very critical. as water quality or access to those waters, the road traffic and accidents, and so on. A broad range of issues, many of which are typically addressed within the social analysis, of the potentially affected communities. For example, if there is a conflict, such as gender, ethnicity, culture, economic disadvantage, and the dependency on unique natural resources. So the project footprint, as you can see in my chart, the project footprint axis applies to physical area and number of communities and people impacted by the project, okay? And then also it applies to temporary and permanent quality of life, such as dust, as I see the example for a quarry project, or noise, or transportation corridors, and all that. It also applies to the workforce size, potential countries, issues related to that. It also applies to impact on natural resources used by the communities, like forestry land, subsistence hunting and fishing, as the case may be. So physical displacement axis. Okay, so potential of the project to cause local violence is another application you should look at. Impact on the population size is another issue. Like I mentioned earlier, the influx, as in or out migration potential. Okay, indigenous peoples and local communities' cultural health practices is also an indicator. Distortion of local prices, especially of food, water, understanding and appraisal of when to do a rapid HIA or related studies. Okay. Okay. The HIA for new projects or new locations ideally seeks to identify and estimate the significant changes that may occur in the health of a particular community or a particular population as the result of different actions. When a concurrent or retrospect health assessment is triggered, it aims to determine whether impacts or introduction, that it's usually better to be conducted before commencement of the project at the planning stage for maximum benefits. So the project should conduct the EIA before the final engineering design specifications and construction contracts are locked in. That's the standard procedure. So the HIA is not the main cost effects analysis on specific to understand what to expect in the course of a project. When the HIA is performed concurrently with the environmental and social assessments, there is a greater ability to effect change and significant engineering. Unfortunately, in design has occurred, and construction has begun, or after performance of a superficial process. That's a question. The bullet point 2. Since health impacts need to be assessed as part of the social environmental impact assessment, the project should include health component when developing the ASIA, the terms of reference for the ASIA for the environmental and social impact assessment. The health component should form parts in terms of reference. The specification, the first instance. So how deep to take the health analysis and consultation depends on the project's potential health impacts, actually. A company that identifies through the screening process potential into the Asia instead of being a separate document, you know. So in such cases, the company should seek advice from health assessment qualified experts, such as Richflood, or include health experts on this particularly large. The number one, which may not in some cases match the communities. So that should be a factor to be considered. So how we potentially. Okay. Number 3 is health equity considerations that are key to the potential like I mentioned. Number 4 is the biology of disease transmission is complex and variable across geographic settings. Okay, so this should be the utility and validity of the existing health database should also be a consultant for cases. So it's good to combine this. If you're using, depending on the method you are using for your SIA, sometimes it can be a part of your the social impact assessment. If it's a questionnaire you're using, or C, if you're using C or whatever system you are using for your socioeconomic survey, you can integrate the health team and HIA in the field, you know, kind of a practical thing. So we will talk about the softwares that are best used and how to gather primary and secondary data and references and all that. So the recommendations that are developed or in a separate health action plan. We'll also treat health action plan. So health risk assessments, related health assessment, incremental individual risks. You know, I said we are going to talk about the methodologies. So basically we have 2 methodologies, but the approach also differs in a way. So look out for that model. Okay, so it can either be a quantitative risk due to exposure to potential areas in the environment, or in some cases, you know, such as chemical exposures, heat stress, safety hazards, and so on. So we have another assessment approach, which is health need assessment. We call it HNAs, health need assessment. Generally, it describes the health needs and health assets of different groups in the local community or in the local population. Its primary function is to inform decisions that service priorities, local delivery plans, and so on. In contrast with the HIA starting point, which is the proposed development of projects in relation to the community, the HNA starting point is the existing community. That's the difference. The HNA focuses on critical health problems, deficiencies, and assets that exist in a community, unrelated to a proposed project. So the different types of health assessment may overlap in some cases, and these assessments can benefit from exchanging and sharing data. The HNA is important in developing health management plans and investment strategies. So the HNA is actually the most advisable because it's important in developing health management plans and investment strategies, as the case may be. So I will advise that you stick around with us as we go for a short break and come back for the next module, which is going to be very rich. You're going to step from the simple to the complex. So you can send me an email directly if you wish at comfort@richflood.com. That's directly to me. You can, if you have a scenario or a case or a project, we can discuss it. Or you have conducted some studies and you need an eye to look at it, we can discuss it and we'll work with you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that